I've lived alone for 3 years now. Top floor. Apartment 308. One bedroom, tiny kitchen, creaky old floors, and a bathroom fan that sounds like a dying animal. Nothing special, but it's mine. The building is old, built in the 60s, I think. It's the kind of place that smells like dust and boiled cabbage no matter how many scented candles you light. The neighbors are mostly quiet. Retired. Students. People you nod at but never really talk to. I like it that way. But over the last 2 weeks, something has been off. It started with the mail. I came home one afternoon to find a stack of junk mail on the kitchen counter. Coupons, real estate flyers, a magazine I don't subscribe to. At first, I thought maybe I brought it in and forgot. Stress can do that to you, right? But then it happened again. And again. Mail I never touched, inside my locked apartment. I called the building manager, Mr. Felder, who lives downstairs and smells like he hasn't washed his hair since 1992. Someone has a key, I told him. Mail is showing up in my apartment. He gave me the usual shrug. You're the only one with a copy. Unless you lost it. I haven't lost it. Then it's a ghost, he said and chuckled like that settled it. I changed the locks that night. The next morning, there were crumbs on my counter. Toast crumbs. And I haven't owned a toaster in years. A few days later, I started hearing noises. It's an old building, I told myself. Pipes groan, floors pop, wind whistles through the window seams. But these weren't random building noises. They were patterns. At exactly 2:18 a.m., I started hearing scratching. Faint, soft, coming from the far side of the living room wall. I pressed my ear against it. It didn't sound like mice. It was too deliberate. Slow. Like fingertips dragging along the paint. I took video, of course, but in the dark all you get is a whispery sound that could be anything. The next night, same time, same scratching. But this time, it ended with 3 knocks right behind the couch. Like someone tapping from the other side of the wall. There's no other side of that wall. Just empty space between buildings. I bought a motion-activated camera, set it up in the living room, and aimed it toward the wall. The next morning, I found nothing on the footage. Just static for a few seconds around 2:18 a.m., then normal. But the weirdest part? The couch had been moved. Not by much, maybe 3 inches, but enough to notice. I have an old dent in the carpet where the front leg usually sits. Now it was off that dent. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake in bed, holding my phone, waiting. 2:18 a.m. Scratching, knocking, and then something new. A voice. Faint, muffled, like someone whispering from the vents. I couldn't understand what it said. Just one word, repeated over and over. Let me. I didn't stay in the apartment that night. I grabbed my keys, wallet, and jacket and spent the rest of the night at a 24-hour diner down the street, drinking bad coffee until the sun came up. When I got home, everything was quiet. The couch was back in place. But now, the scratches were on the inside of the front door. I texted my sister about it. She's the rational one. Works in a hospital, has 3 kids, and doesn't believe in paranormal crap, as she calls it. She said, "You're stressed. It's probably a sleep thing. You should talk to someone." I was going to. Until I found the notebook. It was sitting on my coffee table when I got home from work. A small, spiral-bound notebook. The kind you buy in bulk at office supply stores. It wasn't mine. I opened it. There were only 2 pages written on. The first page said, "You see me now. That's progress." The second page. "Don't lock the door tonight." That was last night. This morning, I found a single long, dark hair on my pillow. And I haven't had long hair since college. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I kept turning over the notebook's message in my head. "Don't lock the door tonight." I did lock the door. Of course I did. I double-checked it 3 times. I propped a chair under the handle like in old movies. I slid my dresser halfway across the floor to block the hallway. It was stupid. I know how doors work. But I did it anyway. And I still woke up with the front door wide open. The chain lock was still hanging on its hook. The dresser was back in place. The chair? Gone. I found it the next morning in the kitchen, on top of the table, balanced perfectly on 2 legs. No fingerprints. No signs of forced entry. No neighbors who heard a thing. I called the police. They sent a patrol car, took a quick report, said I probably forgot to lock it and dreamed the rest. I showed them the notebook. The officer flipped through it and shrugged. Could be a prank. You got friends who'd mess with you? No, I don't. And none of them have keys. The cop gave me a tight smile and left me a card. Officer T. Moreno, 43rd Precinct. Call if anything changes. I started noticing other things. Small things. Toothbrush wet when I hadn't used it. TV turned to channels I don't watch. My shampoo, half gone. I took photos. Logged everything in a notepad. Even made a spreadsheet. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't losing it. Then the dreams started. They were always the same. I'd be walking through my apartment, but it wasn't quite right. The walls were longer. The corners sharper. The furniture was watching. And someone else was there with me. Always just around the corner. I'd hear them breathing, laughing, whispering, but I never saw them. Until one night, I did. In the dream, I walked into my bedroom. Everything looked normal. Same bed, same cluttered nightstand, same crooked lamp. But the closet door was open, and something was crouched inside. Its back was turned to me. Naked, pale, breathing hard, like it had been crying or laughing or both. It turned around, and it had my face. Except the eyes. The eyes were wrong. Huge, black, like spilled ink. I woke up choking, gasping, my mouth full of hair. Not my hair. The next morning, I opened the fridge to find 2 apples missing and a half-eaten sandwich that I didn't make. I live alone. I checked the door. Still locked. The windows? Locked. Nothing broken. Nothing forced. But someone had been here. Was still here. I pulled everything out of the closets. Checked every cabinet. Every crawl space. Nothing. And then, behind the water heater in the hallway closet, I found it. A nest. Old blankets, balled-up clothes that weren't mine. Empty cans of beans. A crumpled bottle of water. And the notebook. A second one. The first page read, "I'm being polite, but I'm getting tired of hiding." I moved out the same day. Packed a duffel, called a friend across town, crashed on her couch. She didn't ask questions. But that night, when we were half asleep on opposite ends of the living room, I asked, "Have you ever heard of someone squatting in an apartment while the tenant still lives there?" She blinked at me. Like, at the same time? Yeah, like, hiding in the walls. Living in the space between spaces. She didn't answer for a long time. Then finally, "Don't go back there." I nodded. I didn't plan to. But the next morning, I got a text. From my number. "Don't forget your keys." Attached was a photo. My apartment door. And me standing in front of it. Except I hadn't been there. I was still on my friend's couch. The timestamp matched. And whoever sent the photo was inside. I went to the building manager again. Felder opened the door in his usual tank top, eyes bloodshot, fingers stained yellow from cigarette resin. "You again," he groaned. "I need to see the blueprints." For the building. That actually made him laugh. "You a contractor now? Please. Just tell me. Are there any hidden crawl spaces? Utility tunnels? Anything someone could use to move through the walls?" He gave me a long, tired stare. "No. It's concrete and drywall. Nothing magical. You want me to check for raccoons? I think someone's living in my apartment." Now he looked amused. "So your ghost has a job and pays rent?" "I'm serious." He grunted and slammed the door. "So am I. And if you don't want that apartment, I'll give it to someone who does." That night, I went back. Not to stay. Just to see. I brought a flashlight, a screwdriver, pepper spray, and a bat. The apartment was dead quiet. No signs of entry. No lights on. But when I stepped inside, I felt it. The air was wrong. Heavy. Almost greasy. The couch had been moved again. The TV was on. Static. And something was sitting at the kitchen table. I froze. A shape. Slouched. Still. It didn't move when I entered. I lifted the bat. Turn around. No response. I stepped closer. My heart hammered in my throat. The chair was empty. Just a jacket thrown over the backrest. My jacket. The one I thought I'd lost 2 weeks ago. But the worst part? The plate on the table. It held the half-eaten remains of my favorite sandwich. Peanut butter and banana. With cinnamon. No one knows I like it that way. Next to the plate, another notebook. "You don't have to pretend anymore. We've shared this place for a while." I ran. All the way to the street, barely remembering to close the door behind me. I drove to a motel 6 miles away. Paid cash. Didn't use my real name. I needed answers. Something real. Something to explain this. So I did what any desperate person does. I posted online. Reddit. Discord. Weird forums buried in the underbelly of the web. I told the whole story. No edits. Just facts. I didn't expect a response. But one came. From a user named H0usemate33. He likes routines. If you break them, he notices. Don't eat at home. Don't sleep at home. Don't leave the closet open. Don't knock on the bathroom mirror. You let him in when you started watching yourself. I messaged back, frantically typing. Who is he? The response came instantly. A roommate you never met, but who always lived there. The next morning, I went to work like a zombie. I sat in my cubicle, trying to stay awake, when I got a calendar notification. Meeting, 2:18 p.m. I didn't set it. There was no meeting room listed. Just one line in the notes. You should be home for this. My hands trembled. 2:18. Same time as the scratching. I left work, drove back. Every bone in my body screamed not to. But I went. The apartment looked cleaner than before. Like someone had tidied up. The couch was in place. Lights off. Curtains closed. But the bedroom closet door was open. Inside was a tape recorder. Old. Dusty. With a fresh cassette inside. I pressed play. My voice came out. Hey, if you're hearing this, that means I found it. The recorder. Which means I've looped. I don't know how long I've been living here. I don't know what's real anymore. He copies things. Habits. Voices. Faces. He watches you. Then he becomes you. Static. Then another voice, low, soft, almost tender. Don't fight it. We live better together. I didn't tell anyone about the recorder. I couldn't. If I heard my voice on that tape, but didn't remember recording it, what does that mean? That I had looped? That he really had become me? Or worse, that I was him? I threw the recorder into a dumpster 2 blocks away. Didn't care if it looked paranoid. Didn't care if anyone saw. Back in the apartment, everything was eerily silent. Too silent. Like someone had sucked the air out of the walls. I paced. I whispered to myself. I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. I looked in the mirror, and I heard it. Knock. From behind the mirror. I jumped back so fast I knocked over my toothbrush cup. 3 knocks. I didn't move. Then a pause. Then, in my own voice. Don't leave again. You belong here. I ran. I stayed at a friend's place again, but sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself, but not quite me, smiling from dark corners. The same huge, liquid black eyes. That awful smile, like it was wearing my face like a party mask. I tried ignoring the texts. The calls from my own number. The messages left on my voicemail that were just breathing. But then, one morning, I got a notification from my bank. 2 purchases. Both made from my apartment's IP address. One was for a pizza delivery. The other? A subscription to a streaming service I don't use, with a profile under my name. But the icon. It was a photo of me, taken in the hallway mirror. From behind. I called the police again. A different officer this time. Younger. More skeptical. He searched the apartment. Top to bottom. No signs of forced entry, he said. No hidden passages. No crawl spaces. I asked if they could dust for prints. He looked annoyed. Whose? Yours? You live here. I begged him to check the walls. Something's in them. He humored me, tapped along the drywall, checked the vents. Nothing. Just before he left, he turned to me. You sure you're okay? I don't know, I whispered. He nodded and left his card anyway. That night, I moved the couch and sat in front of the wall where I'd first heard the scratching. I waited. 2:18 a.m. Scratching. Followed by breathing. Heavy. Wet. I pressed my ear to the wall and heard someone whisper. He doesn't like you sitting in his spot. I bolted upright. There was a figure behind me, reflected in the blank TV screen. It stood just behind the couch, unmoving. I turned around. No one. But on the couch cushion, an imprint. Fresh. Still warm. I took a photo. When I looked back at the screen, something else had changed. On the reflection, my face was still staring forward. But I wasn't. The next morning, I did something desperate. I called my sister again. I need help, I said. She didn't laugh this time. She came over an hour later with her husband. They walked through the place. Listen to me. She found the notebooks. Her face changed. You didn't write this? No. She picked up one of the pages and read aloud. I've stopped pretending I'm not you. She didn't sleep at my place that night. No one did. That evening, I got one final text. Just one word. Tonight. I tried leaving. The front door wouldn't open. It wasn't locked. It just wouldn't budge. Like something was holding it shut from the inside. I ran to the windows. Same thing. Wouldn't open. Wouldn't break. The air grew thicker, like I was breathing through cloth. Then the lights went out, and I heard it. The unmistakable sound of someone walking down the hallway toward me. Slow, barefoot, deliberate. I backed into the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it, shoved the dresser in front of it. The footsteps stopped just outside. Then, a gentle knock. Let me in. You don't need to pretend anymore. I screamed, cried, begged. Silence. At dawn, the door was wide open again. The dresser hadn't moved, but someone had written on my mirror in steam. One of us has to go. I didn't go to work that day. Didn't eat. Didn't shower. I just sat in the middle of the living room floor, trying not to blink too long, trying not to listen, because the apartment was never silent anymore. Even in the quietest moments, I could hear it. Breathing behind the walls. A cough from somewhere under the floor. My voice whispering my own name from the hallway. The message on the mirror stuck with me. One of us has to go. I didn't know what it meant. Not really. But I had a feeling I wouldn't like either option. That night, I tried something new. I turned off every light. Unplugged everything that made noise. Sat cross-legged on the floor in absolute darkness and waited. 2:18 a.m. No scratching. No footsteps. Just a single, steady creak, like weight shifting on the floorboards behind me. And then, a voice. You were a good host. I didn't respond. But this is where I stop asking. Something moved fast, across the room, behind me. I spun around, phone light on. Nothing. But on the wall, where the couch used to be, was something I'd never noticed. A panel. Faint outline. Seam in the drywall. I got a knife and wedged it in. The panel popped open with a soft click. Inside was a narrow crawl space. Dusty. Black. Just barely wide enough to fit a person. And on the floor of it, clothes. My clothes. Some old. Some recent. Some I thought I'd donated years ago. And behind those, more notebooks. Maybe a dozen. I opened the first one. Day 1. He hasn't noticed me yet. Good. I like this version. The second. Day 12. He talks to himself more now. I help him think. The third. Day 47. He looked at his reflection for too long. I think I slipped. The notebooks weren't written by me. They were about me. My habits. My routines. My dreams. My lies. My passwords. One even listed conversations I didn't remember having. Another had a sketch of my floor plan. Another, a detailed drawing of my face, except wrong. Distorted. Off-center. Smiling too wide. At the bottom of that page. If he forgets which one he is, I win. I screamed. Loud. Long. Until my voice cracked. The walls echoed me. With laughter. Low. Mocking. Familiar. I backed away from the crawl space and slammed the panel shut. Then everything in the room turned cold. The kind of cold that lives in your bones. And from the TV, which was still unplugged, came my voice. You saw too much. Now we share the cost. I blacked out. Woke up on the kitchen floor, shaking. The panel was still shut. But the notebooks were gone. All of them. I tried leaving again. Door. Locked. Not physically. Spiritually. I knew it wouldn't open. Like it had become part of the wall. I tried breaking a window. The glass didn't even scratch. I hit it so hard I bloodied my hand. Then I heard it again. From the bathroom mirror. Do you know who you are? The mirror wasn't showing me anymore. It was showing a version of me, older, bruised, with a crooked smile and wide, gleaming eyes. And in his hands, he held my wallet. My ID. My keys. He waved them at me and said, You're the copy now. I curled up on the floor. I don't know how long I lay there. Hours. Days. I only moved when I got hungry enough to eat dry cereal with warm tap water. That was when I saw the door again. It was open. Just open. Morning light outside. Trees. Cars. Normal life. Like nothing had ever been wrong. I stared at it for a long time. Then heard the whisper again. One of us has to go. I stepped out. Walked down the stairs. Outside, the world felt distant. Like I was looking at it through a pane of ice. People didn't look at me. Even when I passed close. At the coffee shop, I asked for my usual. The barista stared through me. Said, Sir, are you okay? I nodded. He handed me a drink. The wrong name was on the cup. My name, but not. Back home, everything seemed untouched. Quiet. I thought maybe it was over. Until I walked past the hallway mirror. There was no reflection. Just a black void. And then He stepped forward from the dark. He was me, down to the scar on my wrist. But there was something in his eyes. Something permanent. He raised one hand and placed it on the inside of the mirror. I did the same, and for a moment, it felt like a compromise, like two halves making peace, until he smiled and pulled me in. I woke up in the crawl space, alone, just in my mouth, my fingernails torn, my hands raw, the panel sealed shut behind me, and outside, I could hear my voice, whistling, cooking, typing, living, and I realized the awful truth. I'm the stranger now,